In this video we'll talk about business exit strategies. Business exit strategies, right, well, to start, there are many reasons for a business to adopt exit strategies. In other words, when the owners want to leave a particular market or close a business or cease to trade. And there are many reasons as to why this may happen. For example, the owner has retired and has no heir to continue the business. So if it's a very small business, the owner may simply close the shop or close the factory or close the work area, and that's the end of the business. So if there's no one to succeed, no one wants to carry on the business, then the business will be closed. So that's one reason why businesses may exit. It may be that the business is run by a partnership and the partners no longer want to work in that business, or perhaps the partners don't agree with each other. But for whatever reason, they just simply decide they've had enough and they close the business. So partnerships would tend to run their course. There may be personality differences or increasing differences and disputes between the partners. So in the end, they decide to just leave the business. Of course, it could be caused by death or long-term illness of one of the owners. And that's another reason why businesses are exited. You want to do something more challenging, perhaps, more fun or less stressful. Sometimes people are in business and they have a dream. They want to do something else. They want to perhaps open a different business, or they want to just simply they want to go traveling, or whatever it is. So they decide to close the business and follow that other dream. So again, businesses may close for that reason. There may be insufficient working capital to support business operations. It may be that the company needs to invest in new technology or in new components or new pieces of equipment, and it simply doesn't have the resources to do so. So rather than borrow and go through all of the hassle of trying to raise the capital, the business simply closes. The need for new skills, new approach, or resources. Sometimes when people have a business, they're able to continue because the product has not changed significantly over time and their skill sets are appropriate to that product. But if the product is changing, and if consumer or customer, if you like, customer wants are changing, they want the product to have more functionality or a better design or more longevity, whatever it is, if the customers want more, then it may impact on the business in the form of requiring the owners to get more skills, become more adept at doing other tasks. And this is just simply not what the owners want. The owners want to continue doing it as they've always done it. But now the market is looking for something different, so perhaps it's time for them to close the business and leave it to someone else to fill that niche in the market. The following are some business exit strategies. Well, they could, having decided to close, they could close it by going through mergers and acquisitions. And I'll talk about these in the rest of the video. I'm just going to list them out for a moment. So mergers and acquisitions is one type of exit strategy. Initial public offering, IPO, and I'll explain what that means later. Sell to a close friend or sell to an individual. Cash cow. Liquidation and business closure. Pass on to a successor. Or an employee buyout. Now we'll talk about each of these in turn in the rest of this video. We'll start with mergers and acquisitions. This type of exit involves merging or selling to another company For example, a large company or competitor. So sometimes competitors may emerge, they may become one company, and thereby they're able to gain economies of scale, economies due to size. They're able to get advantages in bulk buying and sharing equipment and distribution. So there are big advantages in merging. Of course, as far as the customer is concerned, one producer has now been lost, and therefore there is less competitive pressure to hold the prices down, so the customers may lose as a consequence. But it is one way of raising extra capital and trying to ensure the survival of the businesses. This is an effective and common method for stable and profitable companies. It often happens. Sometimes the companies are quite small, they just get together and merge. It doesn't have to be giant companies doing it. It can happen at any size. But sometimes we don't even notice it because they are smaller companies. They simply merge and try to gain advantages out of having a bigger organization, one bigger organization. Buying or merging with another company allows both organizations to combine resources, skills, grow revenue, and product development. So there are advantages in mergers and acquisitions. As I said, however, you have to be careful because as far as the customer is concerned, one producer has now been lost, and that means there's less competitive pressure in the marketplace. So the price of the product may increase. Initial public offering, IPO, is the process of selling a portion of shares in the public markets. So sometimes companies may try to sell shares in their business to the public. Now, they would have to go through various processes to do this, which we're not going to get into, but it may involve even listing on the stock exchange, in which case the company has to be of a certain size and will have to go through a lot of processes to ensure that it's reputable, decent, its accounting standards are honest and open, and it has to go through a lot of hoops in order to get the initial public offering. But it's a way of raising capital, and companies can try and sell some of their shares in this way to raise the capital they need. The purpose of IPO is to raise additional funds for business expansion, pay debts and expenses, and for development. So by and large, the IPO is used to raise capital for the business. Management are still in control of the majority of the business and can in the future buy back the shares. It depends on how it's done. It depends on whether the shares issued are ordinary shares or if they're preference shares, or it depends on what it is. And that's not the subject matter of this video, but sometimes, depending on the type of shares, the business can buy back the shares. So they're raising funds initially, and later on, when the business is doing better, they can use resources from internal sources. They can use those to buy back the shares. So that's a way in which businesses can raise capital. Now, selling to a close friend or individual, well, this is a simple exit strategy. This method is appropriate for a quick cash out. So simply selling to a friend or to an individual. The friend or individual looks at the business, looks at the potential of the business, looks at all relevant information about the business, and perhaps makes an offer to buy the business. If it's accepted, the business has been sold. Simple. An ideal person to sell the business should be an individual who has the right skills and business knowledge to run business operations. But as far as the seller is concerned, he or she may be just simply interested in getting the cash for the business. It may be that they're not too worried about whether the person has the appropriate skills or not. They may want to, as a matter of ethics, advise the person that certain skill sets are required to run the business and certain know-how. And in fact, as a part of the deal, they may spend some time with that person in the business, mentoring the person, showing them how to produce and what to watch out for, and trying to build up their skills so that when they take over the business, they're capable of doing it. Selling the business allows the owner to use the cash to reinvest into another business startup and other projects. Sometimes people may sell off the business and then take the cash and try to set up another business. Try to build up that business, and once it's built up to a certain level, try to sell it on. And it's worth more because it's now showing promise. It's been developed, so it's been sold on at a higher price. Then the person takes that sum of money and buys into another startup to try and build that one up. Now, this idea of a cash cow, well, this form of exit strategy is ideal for stable and profitable businesses. The owner can appoint someone to manage and run the business. So sometimes owners can just leave the business, they appoint a manager to look after the business, and they simply take the profits at the end of the year. They pay the person to run the business, they pay all of the business expenses, and the surplus that's left over, let's say the profits that are left over, when all has been paid, these are sent on to the owner. So it's this cash cow idea. They've got a source of income. The owner can then undertake new projects and business startups while the business is self-sufficient and provides a healthy income. So it's just allowing the business to run, perhaps monitoring it from time to time, looking in on it, making sure everything's okay, but essentially handing it over to someone else to run the business, and at the end of the year, at the end of the accounting period, taking whatever profits there are and perhaps reinvesting these, perhaps investing them in some startup, or perhaps in the original business itself to further boost the cash flow into the future. So what it means simply is that the owner is not necessarily hands-on. The owner is just simply taking the profits at the end of the accounting period. Liquidation and business closure. This method is most appropriate in the event of business failure. If the business fails for whatever reason, then the chances are it will be liquidated. The assets will be sold off and the business will close down. So if it's got machinery or some pieces of capital, they may be auctioned off, sold to other businesses perhaps, and the business will close. The business will sell all assets and cease trading. The process is very simple. No agreements or negotiations between buyers and sellers. It's just simply offering the assets of the business for sale. Someone buys them and the business closes down. The business owner must act as soon as they have knowledge the business is failing to avoid debts. So it's important that once the owner knows that the business is failing, that they move fast to get out of the business before they accumulate debts and before the business becomes a real liability to them. Pass on to a successor. Well, this exit route allows the business owner to pass on or transfer the business to their heir or next generation. So this may be linked with succession planning. In this case, the owner of the business identifies someone, perhaps within his or her family, and gets that person involved, trains the person to take over the business, and then that clears the way for the person to leave the business because there is a successor now in place. The business stays within the family and the owner will still have a presence or an influence on decision making. So even though the person leaves the business, they can still be called upon to give expert opinion or give some input on problems or issues in the future. The business stays within the family, let's say it's a family business, then it's the case that the family will be involved from time to time with the business, may help out in the business, and may give advice and even do some work for the business. In order to appoint the right successor, succession planning must be carried out in advance and through an appropriate process. Now, we've talked about succession planning in separate videos, so we're not going to deal with that here. Finally, employee management buyout. This exit route may be prompted by a desire to disinvest from a viable business. Then the management and the employees may seek to buy the business and secure their employment. So instead of making the employees redundant, the employees get together and buy the business off the owners and then continue to run the business so that they still have employment. But now they are the staff, they are the workers, but they're also the owners. And this does happen within the business community. So these are some of the business exit strategies. It's worth going over the video again and stopping it and starting it and just making some notes on each of these points. But I think it's for pretty much a comprehensive list of the issues that need to be considered when we're talking about exit strategies. But that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.